Mayor and City Council meeting, 4 p.m. Wednesday, August the 4th, 2021, City Hall Complex. I call this meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Madam Clerk, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Number 3, discussion item, economic development. Mr. Kissinger, presentation.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. During our last meeting, there was a request to have a presentation, do a study session on economic development. I reached out to Sam Paz, who put together a small presentation to engage you all in a discussion and to help the discussion along on council's desires on economic development. And at this time, I'll turn it over to Sam. Mr. Mayor. Sam.
Thank you, Mr. Kissinger. So a little bit about me. So previous to working for the city, I worked for a county that did a lot of work in the New Mexico, Texas area, what they would call the borderlands area. And so New Mexico is one of the poorest states in the U.S., and so they have a large focus on economic development. So one of my roles was long-range planning, advanced planning, those type of activities. And so in that position, I had a lot of exposure to economic development. So today I'll kind of go over some economic development activities that I've seen in the Texas, New Mexico area. I'll kind of propose questions along the way so we can get kind of everybody thinking about economic development maybe in a different manner. So what is economic development? How is it achieved? So based off my exposure and my experiences, some communities look at it strictly as infrastructure. Some of them look at it as access to schools and housing. Other smaller communities look at it as leveraging resources and relationships. I'll also pose the question tonight, is it regional or is it local? Is it statewide? How do we look at economic development? And the last question is, how do local governments get involved? Hope the mic is picking me up okay.
Sam, you can put it down.
Okay. So in our general plan, ratified by the voters in 2020, this has 10 goals and measures that talk about economic development, right? It says, support existing annexation, support arts districts. It has a lot of general statements, we'll say, but it doesn't really have, high-level direction or policy. So I'll just kind of keep that in mind. But most of these subjects are common throughout the Southwest, right? Supporting local communities, existing communities, workforce development. Those are things that are well and popular along the Southwest of the U.S. Another way that communities are looking at economic development is a term called livability principles. Not liability principles, but livability principles. And this is a way to start having communities start evaluating their communities in a different approach. So instead of strictly going off of job creation or increase of tax base, this is a way to look at economic development by creating choices for everyone, right? Good parks, good schools, good roads, keeping local resources and taking advantage of those resources and valuing our existing neighborhoods and communities. This is a term that is defined by HUD, the DOT and the EPA. And so communities that have aligned with the livability principles seem to do well with securing grants because they're following that same language, but they're also focusing on having communities spend where they live. And so that's another kind of concept. So one of the experiences that I felt was appropriate to talk about was the Border Area Economic Development Strategy Plan. And so I participated on that on a cursory level. And so this is a large view of how the nation works, right? What is your position in the nation? What is your infrastructure priorities, employment trends? What are the logistics between shipping and receiving? How can you build infrastructure that supports those type of things? And so the interesting thing about this study is that it was binational, regional, state and other stakeholders. And it had support from the DOT, the EPA, and HUD. And it was actually, I think, about 13 local governments, education, housing authorities, transit authorities, all examining one strategic port of entry. So kind of, that's an interesting way to look at economics, we'll say. Following that same vein of thought, I also participated in a border area transportation plan. And so this is a high level look at what is our shipping, what is our receiving, what is our freight, how are those things, actively functioning within the state. And so again, this was a planning initiative that was well supported by the DOT, local communities, local partners, Union Pacific, UPS, they all have a dog in the fight, right? So if you can get all those partners to the table and talk about infrastructure, you usually get a real good conversation about how do we move infrastructure in the state. So again, this is kind of we started off really broad scale, now we're kind of zooming into the state. And so, again, this is another perspective that the city could use in looking at economic development. So now we're zooming in a little bit more. So this is actually applicable to the city of Nogales. And so one of the things that we have here is these areas defined by HUD as opportunity zones. And opportunity zones are looking to attract infrastructure improvements or spur economic development. And for anybody who qualifies as an investor can get tax breaks. And so if you're a business owner or you're a developer, this may be a way to, make money and have a good business. And so again, the cities don't necessarily get involved with it, but several cities are starting to align their zoning and their growth to the opportunity zones. And so we have one very odd-shaped opportunity zone within the city. It kind of looks like two zones, but the map to the left kind of highlights that. Again, this is a program administered by the Housing and Urban Development. Another way to look at economic development is to look at just your downtown regions or your downtown districts. There are several federal and state funding programs to rebuild downtown areas. The most prominent is the Main Street Rehab Program or the facade preservation programs. Some other initiatives that I've seen practice in downtown redevelopment are creating tax districts. So that's a way where the city defines an area, increases taxes of the area, but also installs infrastructure improvements, plazas, sidewalks, those type of things. Things that attract pedestrian activity and shopping. Another way to look at downtown development is to really highlight the non-traditional data. So we'll actually see some of these examples come out in the presentation, but one of the examples that I've seen previously is a small town that had a university. So this small town had a very similar culture to the city of Nogales, had a low average income, but they had a university, and the university had a lot of activity, particularly from an economic standpoint. So what the city did is they actually said, our biggest resource is our university nearby. It wasn't their jobs, it wasn't their tech, it wasn't the local government, it was actually the students and their resources, their financial aid, all those things. And so they started to highlight that in their development, economic development programs. Another thing that I've seen downtown is incentivizing infill. So that means if somebody wants to take over an abandoned building, remodel it, get it up and going, we can kind of give them reduced rates or give them discounts so they can do that easier. And then flexible parking requirements. That's another tool that I've seen to kind of recreate a more urban and walkable downtown. So again, we'll kind of go over some of these concepts in practice. Another view that several communities take advantage of, particularly in the Southwest, is recreationist tourism. We have good weather, we have beautiful topography, beautiful desert, and so some areas have really highlighted plans that highlight their natural resources. Wine tours, birds watching, agriculture tours, ecotourism, these are all ways to attract outsiders to our community to come partake in the tourism parts of it. Cycling events, cultural events, 5K walk, runs, film and food festivals. Again, we have lots of these programs, but the idea is how do we put them in a position where the city benefits from it, right? How do we come up with a calendar of events? How do we piggyback off of supporting events? So again, this is just all food for thought, really kind of highlighting what other areas have done. So the plan that's referenced here is called the El Camino Real Corridor Plan. And so again, that's in the Texas-New Mexico corridor. And so they have a lot of agriculture, they have a lot of wineries, missions, older communities, and they really want to highlight that as an economic development tool. We also have a trail here within the state, the Juan Bautista de Anza Trail that goes from here to, I believe, Northern California. That's highlighted in Tucson, it's highlighted in Green Valley, and so that could be an asset for us to reference in the future. Small business incentives. So I think most of these ideas have been explored here before. Fee discounts, right? So offering development fee discounts or building fee discounts for local businesses. Seasonal fee discounts, similar to what the mayor and council did last summer. This could offer timely reductions to small businesses looking to relocate to the city. Created infill incentive programs. So again, other cities have created this, criteria for businesses that provide infill in the downtown areas or existing neighborhoods, that they actually get discounts because they usually have low costs associated with services, right? There's already sewer, there's already water, there's already trash. And so those are some things that other communities are starting to utilize. So now we'll kind of go over a case study, in my opinion, that kind of touches on all the topics that I presented before. And so, full transparency, I lived and worked in the city of Las Cruces for 5 years. I was not a big fan of the city of Las Cruces when I originally moved there, but it had a good university and my wife took advantage of the university. And so when I moved there, I'm a young adult, young professional looking for activities. And I would go to art shows downtown and I would see abandoned buildings. Right, so part of my job as a long-range planner, and my previous capacity was to get involved in long-range plans, economic development plans, those type of things. So I kind of saw, as an observer and a participant, how a community can kind of redirect its economic future. So it's kind of a small town, interesting demographic, very similar to the city of Nogales, heavily Hispanic demographic, Spanish-speaking, first-generation citizens or college students, just like a very similar demographic. But again, they had a lot of abandoned buildings, unsafe downtown area, eyesores, unsupervised areas, no pedestrian activity at all. So my first experience as a young professional in that city was going downtown looking for the art show and leaving really quick because I felt unsafe, right? Me and my wife were walking around and saying, hey, what's going on here? It's a ghost town. This is not what we signed up for. And so in 5 years, the city was really able to participate on big level regional ideas and small local ideas, and we'll kind of go through that. So one of the first things that they did is they started to do planning initiatives. So they did a comprehensive plan, right, which is very similar to a general plan. They also did an active transportation plan, and so what that's referencing is walking, using the bus, biking, strollers, anything like that. And so they started looking at what does the neighborhood want, what do the communities need. They also started looking at tax programs for their downtown areas. And so they created a downtown tax incentive district known as a TID. They also started infrastructure improvements, reduced building fees, incentivized infill, and then they also created a plaza concert area as their main community place. They also did heavy programming and branding. So they had a sign when you entered the city. They had programs, bi-weekly farmer market and concerts. They had a well-established economic development department and website, and they also did the downtown branding. So, this took 5 years to kind of create this system of downtown initiatives. Again, so they did some planning. They looked at amenities. What are the amenities that the communities want? They started looking at event planning, and they also started doing something with data. And so if you look at that bottom right-hand picture, that picture I think is called a sofa or a stool, but the device in the middle actually tracks how many pedestrians walk by, and it tracks your smart device. So if you're walking up and down, you're going to the bars, you're going to the brewery, they're getting that data and they're showcasing it on their city website. So the local developer comes in and says, what's your pedestrian activity like? They have data to support, why a Dunkin' Donuts wants to move in, or a Starbucks, those type of things. So we'll go over that a little bit more. So again, their downtown looked like this. And with all these exercises, right, the planning, looking at amenities, events, and data, their downtown started to look like this. And so they were doing Halloween events. That is called the Zombie Walk, right? So that's a Halloween event, very well attended. You'll start seeing bikes because of the pedestrian friendliness, right? Sidewalks, that kind of stuff. You started seeing concerts, right? Country music concerts and Tex-Mex concerts in that area. You also have a taco eating contest, the photo on the bottom corner. And then the far right corner, that's an adaptive reuse of an existing building that was abandoned previously. So within 5 years, they really changed their downtown and their economic development projectives. So this is referring to the sofa locations, right? That device that looks like a bench but is tracking your phones. And so if you look at the chart, there's 2 areas that are in green, right? Those are high number of days where you have a lot of pedestrians walking in and around the downtown area. Well, those are 2 key days that they are attracting university students. And the Wednesday is actually when they have their farmers market. So you can start seeing how a city is starting to look at the resources a little bit differently. And then so again, the map to the right kind of shows how they're tracking smartphones or smart devices in that region. So now if we look at this city, kind of from a full circle perspective, this city was involved in the very first thing that I talked about, that regional, in this exercise, right? They were involved on the talks, they were involved in the research, they were involved in all those things. And so they're participating in regional, economic development, but they're also trying to put themselves in a way that takes advantage of that regional activity, right? And so they were part of that regional consortium where I think it was 13 local governments really getting together to look at economic development differently. They also aligned with the livability principles. And so they were aware on a regional scale, but looking at small scale or local scale investments. They did small business incentives, and then they also created the data to attract future business in their area. So now we look at our peers, right, our neighboring towns. And so we have the town of Oro Valley. I was previously employed at the town of Oro Valley, and that town has a very active business hub and very active innovation center. They also are looking at a Main Street program 5 or 7 years ago. They have heavy recreation programs. I think their slogan is something like, it's in our nature, right? So they take advantage of their Catalina Mountains, those type of things. They provide online resources and monthly updates about their business activities. Again, City of Sierra Vista, they also have very similar economic development initiatives, department, website, online resources. Town of Saurita, again, active development department, public information office, and online resources. So a lot of our Arizona small towns and cities are actually taking advantage of a lot of these resources, putting them out there for local businesses to take advantage of. Other considerations, economic development has many avenues and many perspectives. So, population trends, market share data, economic forecasting, economic equity. So that's a term meaning that not only the people with money win, but also some of the lower income demographics also win as well. I mean, that could be college students, high school students, whatever it is, blue collar workers. But it's saying that everybody wins, not just the people that have the resources. And then the other term is economy of scales. So that means making sure that we're not thinking too big where we never see the economic benefit come back. We have to think about small businesses, big businesses, regional trends. So, if I could leave the board with any comment, it would be that there's no silver bullet for economic development. There's no magic recipe. There's no, one thing that does it. It's a series of well put together initiatives, policies, practices and partnerships. Right? All those things together, kind of having a vision, that usually gets some kind of economic development moving in a region. Again, my experience has been insightful, I'll say, because I was an outsider coming to a new area. So when I moved from Tucson to a little small town, I thought that, they were behind, it's just a small town, all these things, but then by getting themselves organized and getting involved on multiple scale projects, they're able to actually turn around their downtown within 5 years. It had some good things associated with that. There were some bad things associated with that. But in general, that experience of working along the border area, and so as a kind of a side item is all the cities that were in and around this corridor, particularly really small cities, you're talking about 5,000, population of 5,000, all of a sudden they started aligning to what these other cities were doing, right? So they were taking advantage of this regional study, looking at infrastructure, looking at small places that create economic businesses downtown, those type of things. Other than that, I'll stand for any questions related to the presentation. So tonight's presentation, from the title, is just to get everybody kind of thinking about economic development on multiple scales, right? And maybe we can find middle ground is how we move forward, or how we, what the direction is from the mayor and council at that point. Thank you.
Mr. Paz, Jan. Since you've been here, have you done any of this here in Nogales?
I haven't done.
Have you tried?
The only thing that
reaching out to the city manager about this?
No, last year was a different year. We do have some, in our development code update that we're doing now, we have some flexibility that's built in to help small businesses and small projects. We have some of the parking flexible arrangements. We're looking at creating more incentives for bike racks, more pedestrian improvements, those type of things. So those things are already going to be found in our development code update.
How about with property owners downtown?
Property owners downtown, we have had no interaction with them.
No communication with them at all? No. So if you have 10 properties that are vacant now, basically that had merchandise in it last year, and now they don't because of COVID and because of the closure of the border, how do you explain to me how you would get them open? How would you start working on that?
Well, I think I'll provide like my, let's say, opinion on how downtown can be redeveloped. I'm not recommending a policy or anything like that. So I think one of the things that I've seen done in Tucson and Las Cruces is creating like kind of a downtown partnership to kind of get feedback and get the desires and needs of that group of people. I don't have any knowledge of their concerns or their economic concerns or their rents, infrastructure needs. I don't have that right now. So I think that's one way, is to kind of create a group that can inform us.
Yeah, because I'm saying is that because I have 3 people that are interested in actually 2 restaurants and a cafe downtown. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if you know the stores downtown. Mm-hmm. They're huge. Yeah. They look small from the outside, but they're very long and they're deep. And these people cannot rent the whole building. Mm-hmm. All right. They talk to me about partially renting part of it. Mm-hmm. And that's where I talked to John about it, that the money that we've received from the federal government and reinvestment and stuff that we can use, that I'm thinking that's where we should invest money on that for development fees, connection fees, building permits, reviews, and all that we pay for that for somebody that wants to go in there. But the thing is that out of your office, you have to be able to say, can that be partitioned off? Because of the structure, they're very old buildings. Can it be partitioned off? Will the property owner allow that?
Yeah.
Because most likely they won't, because they want to rent the whole building. Unless you put something big enough in a big building like the Woolworth building. That's a very good sized building that could be probably divided into 4 that you could use, in different things. But this is where I talked to John about. This is where you need to bring to us. Can that be done through planning and zoning?
So there is.
Without, let me finish. Without putting obstacles in the way, because it's happened before. We've had developers here in Nogales that don't want to develop because planning and zoning puts a lot of obstacles in the way. There's so many things that we have in our development code that will prevent somebody from doing that. And then we have the flood zone. The Morley Avenue is right in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Then we have to, deal with the county on that to allow. I'll just give you an example. The Consulado building, it had to be raised 4 feet above the street level. But you know what they originally wanted to be raised? 8 feet above the street level. We had to go through some dealing with that.
Yeah.
And then the building, the Marcus building, where next to Subway was at, they wanted to do work there, and they wanted them to raise the building. Come on, it's a building that's been there for 100 years. So how do you deal with that as planning and zoning director?
So I think there's a few options that are worth exploring, but I also think there's major regulations on period older structures, right? So if you have a concept of, partitioning a building into, let's say, a large building into 3 small buildings, then all of a sudden you have 3 people adding a load to the electrical system, and that's a fire safety issue. And so that's things that we apply our safety regulations. We're not here trying to stop businesses, or we're trying to save lives and make sure buildings don't fall on customers, or the building doesn't have fire sprinklers, those type of things. Those are fire and safety things. I also will say, though, that a lot of communities look at adaptive reuse guidelines. And so that's something that we could explore and say, if you have a shell building and you have this, we'll give you a discount because you're going to create more businesses, right? And so those are things that we can easily research and present.
Those are the policies that I think we have to create as policy legislators here in the city. Because otherwise we're not going to fill those buildings.
Well, I also think the comment that you had about the floodplain regulations, right? And so I don't speak for behalf of Santa Cruz County, obviously, but I think, there should be a variance program or something that provide more flexibility. You're correct. Those are major obstacles. If somebody's trying to repair or address their building and recreate, let's say, a walkable downtown, well, right now the threshold is that they have to do 50% of the value of the building, right? So then they either have to try to operate within that 50%, or they have to get the whole building reevaluated to a current value. And so that right there, you're adding 3 or more steps to actually hire a consultant or an assessor or whatever it is, an evaluator, to come look at this old building now and come up with hypothetical numbers. Those are development challenges, right? But I also think that they're not all solved by planning and zoning. Some of them is Santa Cruz County. Some of them could be from, like I said before, like a business group saying, how do we get beyond these issues?
There's so many obstacles that they put in front of anybody that wants to do anything downtown. At least from downtown to the city hall here. And the worst thing about it, Mr. Paz, is that all that is channelized. The water's channelized. It's underground when it rains, but we do still have surface water sometimes if something happens across the line and it goes on the streets and it doesn't, and the channel's not capable of taking that whole surge of water. So we've had some flooding on the streets. But, I think we need to sit down and maybe you come up with something a little stronger than just a PowerPoint like this. And it's nice what was done in Las Cruces. I know Las Cruces. I love that town. I like to go to Hatch every year for chili during the chili festival, and I enjoy going there. But Nogales is unique. That's why I've been. I'm concerned that I hope we can be successful and you can help us out with annexation, because we can't just depend on this valley, the topography of Nogales. We have to expand. We have to be able to. You mentioned there livability. Tell me here in Nogales, where's livability, where you can have a developer come in and build a subdivision? There's nowhere.
We're maxed out. That's why infill.
We're maxed out. So we need to go either north or east towards Keno Springs. Keno Springs would be the best place for residential and stuff, and so those are the things, you know. I've talked to several friends of mine up in Chandler and Gilbert area, and they told me that when they were annexing their places up there, they weren't going after retail. They were going after homes. They were going after areas that were vacant so there would be more homes. Because where you have homes, you have people that come in to live, and then you start developing your retail places and your restaurants and your entertainment. And Tucson did the same thing, I believe, towards Vail. When it was nothing but cattle country. And the only one that really took in a lot of retail was when Marana annexed. You probably saw that. They took a big chunk of businesses. But, you know, back in my first administration, Aaron White was working with us in economic development. He was part of the administration at the time, and him and I worked directly from my office. We put packets together. And these packets were with all the information needed for anybody that wanted to come to Nogales to develop, with all the information from Nogales, Sonora. We took Nogales, Sonora, and imagined that there was no wall, there was no fence. And we told these people, there's 500,000 people, there's a floating population of so many people, this is how much people come every day to Nogales, you know, all the shopping and everything. That basically, all that packet was basically what brought Aeropostale in, Shoe Carnival in, Panda in, and Forever 21. Okay, if it wasn't for that packet, they wouldn't have been here. Those places would have been empty. Okay, because they won't come to a city with 23,000 people. But you need to take that to these developers, these people that are interested to come in. Just for your information, right now, I've been talking to some people from Nashville, Tennessee. They want to come to Nogales. They don't want to go to Texas or California. They want to come to Nogales. And but they're not interested in retail. They're interested in cold rooms, warehouses, and stuff like that. I've already introduced them to some people here. I hope they can come and build here. But you know, right now, you know, the prices of construction right now are going over the top, and it's kind of screwing things up for new business. But that's the key right there. If we're going to work for the downtown area and we're going to invest some of our money, I think you need to concentrate on how we can do it there without putting obstacles in front of a developer, you need to facilitate, you need to walk these people. I've had some people in my office angry because it takes 6 months to run a permit through your office. And then after that, and that's before you, okay? And then after that, through the fire department for fire inspection, another 3 months. They don't like that. They don't like that. They want to do it as fast as possible. And then we need to reduce cost. You know, and sometimes you go, okay, well, you reduce costs, you lose money, but otherwise you're not going to bring them in. You're not going to attract the people that want to do it. And then the ones I'm talking to you about are the local developers, local people that want to do something. So you know, and my next meeting I want to have it hopefully with the property owners in here, because we need to talk to them. Are they willing to be part, you know, of improving the first 2 blocks of Morley Avenue? And am I right? You know, I mean, is that what we need to do? Because if they're not part of it, you're not going to do anything.
No.
Well, I think any communication.
Those buildings are not abandoned, okay? You said abandoned buildings there. These are not abandoned. These buildings, they had somebody in there last year. Now they're empty, but they're not completely abandoned or you know, they can be, you know, if somebody rents them, they can come in and start working on it. But I don't think the same people that were there are coming back. And if the border continues to be closed, See, we have two things here. We have the border closed, and then when it's open, we have lines that take 2-3 hours to come across. So that's always going to be an issue with the downtown area.
Yeah.
So my thing, the way I think we should do is attract businesses in that area that people from here will go over there. You understand?
Yeah.
Not always depend on
Tourists.
the Mexicans coming across. People from here go over there. Like it used to be when I was young. Everybody from here used to hang out over there on Saturday mornings. It was full, the whole street, but there was no Mariposa Road back then. There was nothing out there. It was only cattle. So, but it's different now. Now with Mariposa Road, now with all the improvements over there, it's going to attract more people in that area, and it's going to be a lot easier for them to shop, especially when you park off street, you park in the parking lot. Over here, you have to park in the street. You have to park in a meter. We have to think differently, and I hope you can come up with something that can bring life to the downtown area. We're going to wait for that border to open, but now, I don't care how many resolutions we send, letters sent, se acabó. Okay, no more. I'm not sending a letter to anybody else because none of the senators or Congress can even tell us why the border is closed. Now I don't know if it's COVID or if it's political. So, que se abra cuando se abra. At this point. But we, as policymakers here and your department, let's think about how we can do something there that people from here shop. People can go downtown and help the businesses downtown. Hopefully we can get that. But there's a lot of buildings that are empty completely. I don't know how we're going to do that. There was a paper that I had. I would like to look for it. I've seen Mr. Massey, if you could find it. Remember policies, ports, and promotions?
I don't remember that, sir.
Well, that was during my first administration, and it went through my office. And what it was is to set policies, to look at the ports, the importance of the port, and then how to promote it. It was called Policies, Ports, and Promotions. It's got to be around, it's got to be in your place somewhere. I can't find it because everything was gone when I came in. But I might have it myself, my records at home. But there's also this ordinance that Mr. Massey showed me that we had back in the time that we did, for some of the waive some things. But I think we have to make something stronger, something that, that we can help anybody, and at least through your office, we can give somebody that's interested and say, you know what, we can help you with all of this. And John said that we could probably use some of the funding, ¿verdad, John? To be able to I'm not saying that we're going to give you money to open up a business, but I'm saying to help with your cost, everything. But we have to reduce some of those, I don't know if you can present that to us so that we can pass as an ordinance or something, but we need to look at something like that, Mr. Paz.
So I think there are some avenues to explore. One of the avenues would be if you look at impact fees for, let's say, a large warehouse versus a coffee shop. Well, there's a discrepancy there. So that could be an area that we can reduce the cost for, let's say, a coffee shop. So anybody who serves food has to have a high number of sinks, right, to wash your hands and that kind of stuff. And that stuff's mandated by the health department. So you'll get a small coffee shop that has the same fixture units as a large warehouse. And so, that may be something where we can offer more flexibility to the small coffee shops or the small bars and grills, we'll say. And so that's one avenue, but I think there are several avenues that we can explore.
Yeah, and just so you know, you also had a thing there about events. Mm-hmm. We just had our meetings with the vice mayor and myself and Mr. Bonilla, and we have a calendar of events that we're going to be presenting to the council also, and that we usually have every year. except last year we didn't. We do have events, and we try to, some of them, to have them downtown, to attract people. But the one thing I'm going to tell you, the first time we voted on the general plan back in 2010, it was a shame. Since then to now, we voted again. Y nada se ha hecho. Okay, so why have a general plan? So I strongly believe if we have a general plan, it's in your office, huh? You should bring it to us and tell us, Mayor and Council, the general plan says this, and it was voted by the people that we need to address that. You know that on the general plan, there's annexation on there.
Yeah.
And actually, the annexation footprint is part of the general plan. That they're going to be presenting to us pretty soon. So we're not following it, and the people voted for it.
No, and I agree with you. That's like the general plan is a costly resource, right? And we should be taking advantage of it fully, right? Getting funds, getting grants, doing small business things.
That's what it's for, to attract that.
It's not there to be on the shelf for 10 years until we have to update it again. No, the idea of the general plan is to start doing some of it, right? And so that's kind of the intent why we're here tonight, start talking about these things, right?
Yeah, because if I'm a developer and I know that Nogales has a general plan from 2010, and I open up the general plan and look at it and come visit Nogales, I'm going to be very disappointed.
Yeah.
I'm going to be very disappointed that the sidewalks, the transit, the green areas, the infrastructure, it's not there. It's not there. And is it the fault of the policymakers of the council? No, it's not. It's planning and zoning. It's the administration. You need to bring those things to us and say, you know what, we need to follow the general plan. You need to tell us, we need to invest this on the budget this year because of the general plan. Because otherwise, if we're just going to follow a general plan because of what we say, no, it's not. That doesn't work that way. You need to be part of it. The Public Works Director needs to be part of it. The Police Department, the Fire Department. You need the directors. Everybody needs to come to us and say, you know what, Mayor and Council, this is on the general plan for the next 10 years. We need to talk before budget time. Let's invest on it. We just passed the budget.
Yeah.
The only thing that was talked on general plan during the budget was annexation, and that's because I brought it up. But besides that, nada. We're buying ambulances, we're buying, supplying what we need, but we're not looking to the future. We don't have a vision. We don't have a mission statement in regards to the general plan. So I think we need to sit down and start talking about the general plan, and I think your office, your department, and planning and public works with the city manager need to start looking into that, because otherwise, why have a general plan? And remember, the general plan was voted by the people of Nogales. It wasn't our decision. And the worst thing to have is to have somebody come to us and say, you know what, it's been 2 years, Mayor, and you haven't done anything on the general plan. We're improving sidewalks. We're trying to do something on Frank Reed. We're trying to do, repair and maintenance. Of course, that comes with the day in, day out. But we're not really doing what the general plan is. Because if you look, some of the concepts on the general plan, they're not there.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I saw a general plan, back in 2010, when I first got elected the first time for mayor. And I thought maybe, hey, we're going to do something. And I used to talk to Mr. Dilly at the time, the city manager. But, one thing led to another, and I would never see anything. But, I mean, it's hard for us to, force it down somebody's throat. You should, staff should be the one saying, you know what, we need to follow this, Mayor. And right now I bet you none of the departments budget anything for the general plan. presented anything to us. Did anybody, John Verdacano? Maybe fire trucks and stuff like that, but nothing in concepts and designs and stuff like that. The transit system, no. And those are the things, because it's very nice what you showed us about Las Cruces, and I'm glad that was done, you know, and I'm glad Tucson survived with the downtown area.
Yeah.
I used to drive through there every time, and it was a ghost little town of the Congress and Broadway there. But you know why it survived? Because they built that trolley, and they attached it to the U of A. Very smart. And they got all the students to come to that area every Friday and Saturday. And they opened up all the bars. And there it is. They created a nice downtown area, and they brought people in. Now, what can we do to take people to Morley Avenue, but from here, not from across the line, from here? Because at 6 o'clock, Morley Port of Entry is closed. So we have to think about that. Let's look at that and let's work as a team on this.
Yeah.
You know, because otherwise we'll. And I'm going to tell you one thing. I am going to bring this up frequently, because I think we need to start, you know, through the council coming up and you bring it to us things that you think we need to approve, so that we can have that scope, that concept of the future of Nogales. Doing?
Yeah.
And then, you know, maybe next time your presentation will be all about Nogales. Nice.
I have no issue bringing concepts and ideas and proposals. And so, like I was saying before, today's presentation is just a primer, right? We're just trying to say these are how communities are looking at things at different scales. I'm not saying that this is the only way to go or this is the best way to go, but this is our competition, right? So if somebody wants to move to those areas along New Mexico and Texas, they're also going to look over here. And so I think, you know, I agree 100%. We have to start looking at how do we attract businesses, how do we retain businesses, and then how do we make sure everybody wins off of economic development. There's no magic bullet, right? And so, again, today's presentation was a primer to get everybody to start thinking about things differently. So
Yeah, it's kind of like the San Luis, I believe. They boast that they're the fastest growing city along the border. You heard about that?
I heard about. There's a
You know what they did, no?
I won't,
Annexed. You know?
I won't elaborate too much on the cities.
No, but they took a big chunk of land and took more people in there. It's not that they're growing within the city limits, that they annexed. And hopefully, have we got anywhere the numbers, John, close to census at least? Did we go up on 1 or 2 people, or
I haven't gotten
Nothing.
from the Spanish.
nothing? That I hope we can get good numbers on that we don't lose anybody.
Yeah.
Because last time we started losing people because they were moving to Rio Rico.
Yeah.
A lot of people were moving to Rio, but those people come and work here, which is, you know,
Yeah.
it's still, it doesn't matter if they live over there, they work here, but every time somebody calls the radio, they say that us, the council, do not bring jobs to Nogales. We don't bring jobs, they say. So I ask, what jobs do you want? And they're talking high-paying jobs. Well, of course, everybody wants a high-paying job. But, you know, first, we're limited with space. We're limited with the workforce. I just had in my office the people from the Hispanic Chamber from Tucson and representatives from the University of Arizona, from the port people, and they're willing to come to Nogales and find how what we can do in Nogales, and they can help us out. And I'll give you the information for that. They want to come and help us out, and I told them that probably we don't have the workforce for what they do over there, but they have training. They do training and stuff like that. So there would have to be a business ready to locate here in Nogales that they're willing to be able to work kind of closely with them, and also be able to trade with Mexico. So it's a combination of,
Yeah.
and I'll give you that information that I
Please do.
got so you can talk to those people. It's very interesting what they said, that, you know, and they're going to be having meetings pretty soon, now that they're opening up with this COVID thing, and maybe the next time they come in, you can be with me in the office, you and John, so that we can hear them out, because I think they're working with the maquiladora industry, and, you know, aerospace, electronics, other stuff like that. And those are the things I think we need to, for those jobs that people in Nogales want. And I know the maquiladora industry, if I'm not mistaken, Vice Mayor, they train people over there.
Oh, yeah, they do.
Yeah. They train their staff.
Yeah.
They train employees, you know, so because they need to have that training, and they have people from the Universidad de Sonora. They come and train them at the maquiladora industry so they can do their work. So those are the things for those jobs. But let's hope we can get something going, and as a team.
Right.
That
That's
one.
good. I mean, I'm all ears, and I can bring proposals and concepts.
And I'm glad you came to do this, because it was the first time you've done it since I've been here.
I
And
think it's the first time I met several of you guys.
Yeah.
It was COVID. So when I arrived, I didn't bring
I know.
it, but when I arrived, everything went.
I know, I told John one day that I wanted to meet you, and he said, no, he doesn't want to meet you. And I said, he's afraid.
I think
of
John
COVID."
was
No,
speaking on
I'm
his own
just
behalf.
joking. Yeah, because of COVID, but I understand, but I'm glad you came, because it's important we sit down as a council to talk to you about this, because,
No, I have the same interest of looking at the general plan, carrying out those ideas, and that's why I was interested.
have you been looking at it at the journal?
I've looked at the general plan several occasions. I also looked at the 2010 general plan when I was doing stuff as a student, and so that was one of my concerns as well. Is that there's a lot of the same topics and not so much change, right? And so,
See if you can find the paper, Mr. Messi, too, on policies, ports, and promotions. And it was passed through council, kind of like this one, and it was meant for basically what it, you know, to set policy and about the ports and how to promote Nogales outside with our port. You know, you promote.
If it was passed by council,
Yeah, we talked about it in the council. Yeah. If it wasn't I think it was in 2012 or close to it. It was Aaron White and myself that did that. And I hope I can find one of those packets that had a lot of information, but we can create another one. Matter of fact, I think it's time we create another one, because there's more people now. But at that time, there were more crossers, Mr. Paz. There was more people coming across. The floating population was a lot bigger than what it is now. So, you
It was
know,
about 60,000 people
a day.
A day.
And during the peak season and the Christmas, it could go up to 100,000 a day. People from across the line being here in Nogales. And not just going through to go to Tucson, but staying here and on their way back, gassing up and stuff. So our sales tax was good. You know, it was different, you know. But now that,
on the same note, some small towns are taking advantage of social media, and so if you look at like the town of Marana, they actually have a strong YouTube presence, right? So if a developer or a young shopper or whoever wants to spend money, they usually just Google, right, town of Marana. They can know where shopping's at because they put videos online, and they have a public information office that, you know, they actually also showcase infrastructure that way. So they'll show, you know, a corner on Silverbell and Swan. I'm making up roads, but they'll say that this is shovel ready, right? This is shovel ready, has infrastructure, and they'll show a drone going over the property, right? And so this is our competitors, and so they are showcasing it through video, right? Not necessarily, you know, pamphlets or documents. People want to see stuff quick, and so they use YouTube and Instagram and those things on a high level, we'll say. So that's something that we can explore.
yeah, and a lot of the places in Nogales that probably have empty space are industrial park areas right now, you know. So that's the problem that we have. You know, if you want to retail or a shopping area or something like that, or restaurants and stuff. It's limited. The spaces are limited, but Noé up there, he's got some great land, waiting for somebody to develop. And he's been leveling off the land and at the industrial park. I hope one day that gets full, with I hope maquiladora type, because they hire a lot of employees, that somebody could come in and put some type of assembly line type work, that they could, that would help with the job related for the people in Nogales. But we do need, restaurants. We do need retail. We need all of that. But you can go around. I'm sure you've been around town. It's very, you can't find anything.
Yeah.
You can't find anything for somebody. There's still a few spots there at Mariposa. I think I'm finding a mistake. I don't know. I don't think there is.
Next to Big Five, there's
Oh.
Yeah.
I think next to, it used to be DD's.
No, but I'm talking about to build.
Flatland?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I know. Not even close to the
Except for
border.
the corner on Mariposa and Mastic. There's a piece of land for sale there, ready to build.
Yeah, the one in the corner there. Yeah. Close to the border would be nice.
Yeah.
See, the other thing is, have you ever looked at or contacting stores like Costco and Sam's to see if they're willing to come? Have you ever?
I have not, no.
No?
No.
He's talking about they call them cold calls.
Yeah.
Because those were perfect. There's areas for that in where Noé is at, because those are big boxes. But I don't know if they would want to come to Nogales when they have one across the line already.
Yeah, they do.
And then the border shut down.
And then the border, you need to have that. We're kind of in a bad spot right now with this border closed and the COVID thing going. But it's a good time to talk about it.
Yes, exactly.
To talk about it and to be able to see at least to figure out how we can, work together to come up with this. And the members of the council, we're here to help out. I know, Mr. Bonilla, you talked to some people, restaurant people, ¿verdad? Who did you talk to recently?
From Raising Cane's.
Yeah.
Because in Tucson, they make chicken fingers,
Chicken sandwiches and
yeah, and
fingers.
stuff like that, and it's a growing franchise. But what the mayor stated right now is what they're holding back is on our population. Most of these franchises or restaurant franchises, you tell them yes, but we have 500,000 in Mexico, and they don't care. They don't care because, and I asked them, well, why don't you care? Well, because we can't plan on those people because the peso sometimes fluctuates. And remember, a few years ago, the peso went up to what, 24, 27 to 1? And that's when Villas closed downtown, where Masons used to be, and it affected a lot of businesses downtown. So, like the mayor says, we need to start bringing back these franchises that left Nogales. I talked to the new president of Buffets Incorporated, which was Hometown Buffet, and they have some other new restaurants, and they scaled down now. Where they'd be willing to, we don't have a big buffet anymore. Golden Corral is not going to come to Nogales. They don't have to, because there's one owner that owns 14 of them. And if you go on their website, if you go on Nogales, it says almost that there's technically one, but it's that same owner that bought the rights to Nogales, and she's not interested. Why would she? If everyone goes to Tucson, why would you have one here in Nogales? But I think that if we give them a good enough reason, they'll do it. I mean, Hometown Buffet was here a few years ago. That one restaurant employed 167 employees. I remember because I was the kitchen manager there, and I did most of the hiring, and we hired 160, and we kept those 167 employees for almost a year. So all it takes is to bring one big franchise here to Nogales, and that could be the spark to get everything rolling. The new Shakey's, we had a Shakey's here a few years ago. The new ones are real nice, but where do we put them? They're the size of a Peter Piper now. Where do we put them? There's no space here. You know, so it's something to
It'd be nice if something like that could go downtown.
yeah. And I've always said there's some local owners here that are very interested in successful restaurateurs that have a vested interest in Morley. And they've asked me, hey, what are you guys doing to jumpstart Morley? Is it going to be an issue if we're open till 2 in the morning? There's a lot of questions that they have. And I think that if we invite them and tell them, look, this is how we can help you, I think that they're the ones who can actually start everything. But I have at least 3 to 4 restaurant owners here that really want to invest in Morley
And Terrace Avenue.
and Terrace Avenue. Yeah, so I think it's something that we can sit down and send them invitations and let them know, hey, this is what we can help you out with.
Yeah, I mean, that's the work group that we could develop, right? We can get actual feedback and create actually informed policies. And so on the positive side, I think we're getting a Baskin Robbins and Dunkin' Donuts here in the future. So stay optimistic.
The perception is that,
You're getting Baskin Robbins here?
yeah, with Dunkin' Donuts, they're the same.
Yeah.
They bought them out.
Well, we had them here before.
Yeah, I think it's the same location too.
Yeah,
Dunkin' Donuts was here, too.
Dunkin' Donuts was here, but
Left.
they left because back then, it was very poor customer service. And that really just put that.
We've
to
had a
sleep.
lot of restaurants.
We've
Did you
had
see in
Taco
Tucson?
Bell.
You know, we had them here. They left. Arby's, Rallies, Long John Silver's.
Yeah.
I mean, they left. They left. They were here. They should have stuck around. It'd be, they probably would have attracted more business to Nogales. And sometimes you want to ask why they leave, but you never know why they leave. And it's not for bankruptcy, because you go to other places and they're all over the place, but they left Nogales. But I know Long John Silver's left Tucson, ¿verdad? They're not in Tucson, they're in
They're not
Casa
Tucson.
Grande, I think.
I think the other factor to consider is the development in Tucson, particularly the shopping areas along Irvington. So there's that Tucson spectrum.
They're
So
getting
Tucson-
closer to Nogales.
Yes.
Yeah, but they're also getting bigger, right? They're getting bigger stores. They're developing on both sides of the road. They have the In-N-Out, the Chick-fil-A. And so that's the first
Unbelievable what they're doing
destination.
there.
In-N-Out won't even consider a restaurant unless you're 1 million
Yeah.
population, at least.
And then, Krispy Kreme, all those restaurants do the very similar, critical mass, right? What's that critical mass they need for business? And so like I was saying, highlighting non-traditional data. So we could say, hey, we have 100,000 people crossing the border a day. We have heavy foot traffic. We have transit that supports moving people from one part of the town to the other. Those are also things that could benefit small towns, right? And so if we go after In-N-Out and say, hey, we do have a small population, but we have high border crossing, high pedestrian counts. We have an active transportation system that brings people to, shopping, food, all that stuff together. That's how we kind of create incentives to come to small towns.
And I think that the key to this, Mayor, is investing on small businesses first. If we go for the big boys, we have nothing like he said. If we build a little, per se, a platform, hey, or a portfolio of businesses downtown, then maybe they'll consider it. But right now, we don't have anything.
Nothing.
We need to help those businesses that are trying to stay alive downtown. Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Paz, thank you for the information here. Your PowerPoint is very good. The mayor made some really good points. Have you tried to reach out, or has the Nogales Community Development tried to reach out to you and exchange ideas? And because they have a big footprint downtown, and I know they're getting grants. They apply for grants, and maybe you could even go through the Small Business Administration and Chicanos por la Causa. They do a lot of small business grants and stuff like that. Maybe reach out to them, reach out to the property owners and say, we got these grants available, or we got these loans available, and maybe there could, if people, you put together the people and they can talk, and maybe something will come out of it. Reaching out to different entities and just give the property owners a way where they can maybe get funds to start up a small business, and maybe tell them, look, there's small businesses. Maybe you could divide your big store into 4 different little stores that would complement each other, and get the ball rolling that way too. Maybe we could try something like that.
Yeah. But I think that goes back to like starting the business group, right, or the development. And nonprofits play a role in that. Chicanos por la Causa serves small businesses, and
Chicanos por la Causa has, I'll give an example. My uncle owns a business in Phoenix called Azteca Bakery, and he got a loan from Chicanos por la Causa because he needed to expand his business. Well, because what his business does, he does a lot of the frozen bread, the street bread, Mexican bread, and frozen breads for restaurants and stuff like that. So he needed to expand. When he got that loan, he was able to expand. Right, I think right now they're making between $45 and $47 million a year, and that was off a loan from Chicanos por la Causa.
Awesome.
And if you need to reach out, he can tell you in which direction to go to and how to at least point you in the direction how to get a loan, because he needed to expand, and he reached out to Chicanos por la Causa, and they invested in his business, and now he's at, I think last time I spoke to him, he was around 48 million a year. They're shipping their product all the U.S. A lot of the sweet bread that you have at Food City, it's frozen already. It's made already. Just stick it in those ovens,
Right.
and it's made.
I know Walmart does the same thing.
Yeah.
It's frozen.
Yeah, that's the way everyone's going now.
Yeah.
Golden Corral, a lot of people think that the food is made there.
Oh, no.
They have a central kitchen, and so you just get it, put it in the steamer.
Híjole, I thought those steaks were, Hey, they're coming in, a meeting with Chicanos por la Causa. I'll give you a call.
Okay.
Okay, so you and John can be in my office when they come in.
And
I want to talk about everything from education to immigration.
And so some communities are doing too, to fund small businesses, they're creating a revolving loan. And so in the previous community, we had a lot of rural businesses that couldn't fund themselves, right? They couldn't get that startup money. So the local government said, we're going to have a revolving fund that gives these small businesses the opportunity to get going. And then once they get going, they can repay the amount, and then that gets, given to another small business. And so even though those had very grassroots efforts and very small budgets, a lot of them were in rural communities that had no businesses, no Wi-Fi cafes, no shops, no anything. So even, rural communities and small communities can take advantage of those. And so one way the city can get involved is by doing a revolving loan fund. And so again, that's just like another fruitful conversation that we can have in the future. And other communities have done it, and we just have to, make a strategy of how do we do it the best. And so I'll just keep that in mind.
Perfect. Is there anything else, Mr. Claus? Go ahead, Council.
Thank you, Mr. Paz, for taking the initiative to get the ball moving, as they say. So you're taking on a big responsibility. That's what it sounds like.
I'll leave that for Mr. Kissinger and
Okay.
for
All right.
for
I wanted
us to
to-
figure it out.
City
But
manager and
yeah.
Mr. Kissinger and so forth. Okay.
but so I represent the general plan. I want to see the general plan initiatives, and I know that everybody agrees with economic development, but how do we all kind of
Yeah, and
to
it seems to
consensus.
be the topic nationwide, right? Economic development.
Yeah.
So what do you recommend from now on that the council and manager and so forth take place
So,
on to help you with this initiative?
so I'll congratulate the mayor and council for entertaining this discussion and hearing me out.
Yeah, thank
right?
you.
And so I think from today's discussion, we'll see everybody has different priorities or different care areas, we'll say, right? Areas of focus. So I think, from my perspective, we're still on a wide bullseye and we kind of need to refine. So maybe another work session or a series of work sessions where we get feedback from local business owners or local nonprofits that can kind of further give us a better target, we'll say, or let us zoom in. So that would be my recommendation, but the mayor and council can, do what they wish. If they want marching orders now, we can try to do that, but I still feel like the conversation is still pretty big.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it's a broad subject.
Yeah.
It's a lot to chew on and a lot of planning, and we talk about it a lot.
Yeah.
We got to put all these things into action. Yeah. Thank you.
Is there anybody else? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, and, I'm the more on athletics and sports and all that, I know there's ways we could find areas, basically to do, soccer fields, baseball fields, to bring in more tournaments down here. There's, I just went through a whole month of tournament, and the main thing is, having more parks, more, and I know soccer needs some. If we could develop areas for more parks, for soccer and baseball, that'd be another way to bring in people.
Yeah, if you look at the Tucson, Pima County, Camino Sports Park area, you have people from all over the Southwest for soccer and all that stuff. And so
you have a complex with, say, four soccer fields and 4 baseball fields. You could bring in 30, 40 teams to play one tournament in a weekend.
Just like a couple of,
and they'll all eat at the restaurants and the shopping and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That's something that we can propose as a packet, right? We could say, do tournaments here because no traffic or active downtown or whatever it is. We can create like an incentive package for that. So, but yeah, recreation, golf has something very similar, basketball very similar. And so, again, how do we put ourselves in that position to showcase our best foot forward?
Yeah, I had the baseball tournament we had at Memorial. We had 10 teams and did for the kids. Some went to the Border Patrol station and got entertained while they didn't play. They went to the lake and stuff like that. Unfortunately, Mother Nature didn't behave with us, but it gives you, we had at least 5 or 6 of the teams stay in the hotels for 4 or 5 days. That's 10, 12 rooms per team, and all that brings good development, economy to the city. But if you talk to everybody, in the city, where do we have spots for that? I know Diamondbacks give out grants for baseball fields. I'm pretty sure there's the soccer Atlas. I think there's up in Tucson that they give out grants also for soccer fields and things that we could look for.
Yeah, no, it's definitely an avenue to explore there. So.
Okay, thank you.
Is that it? Go ahead.
Mr. Paz, I know that we've been talking about businesses and restaurants and retail and all that, but another point that we can start advertising is on tourism. The Nogales is very rich in history, and if we can get connected with the historical society and agency like that, maybe we can start bringing in some tourists into Nogales. And like the mayor said, the main point here is annexation, because Nogales is unique. We're in a valley. We're in the water. Everything that flows down to the middle of the city. We need to expand, we need to go north and east. And if we don't have, it's hard to build. We can't bring any new developers into town if we don't have anywhere to build. And we can't bring any businesses into Nogales if we don't have any new development. So that's one of the key points. We have to start working on annexation.
Yeah. And even in the annexation, right, that's also a factor in economic development, right? So we have to think about, what's the commercial activity there? And so some other communities have really done annexation from a land use and economic standpoint first and foremost, and then kind of fill in all the gaps around it. But again, they're all, ideas that we have to explore a little bit further, so.
Yeah, because we're talking about big box stores, hospitals, universities, but we don't have the housing. We need the housing.
Yeah.
We can't house anybody that, we have like 1,000 people working at the border, and they all commute from Tucson or Sahuarita or
Rio Rico.
Green Valley or Rio Rico. Nobody lives in town because there's no housing. There's no housing available.
Yeah.
So we have to focus on the annexation while we focus on the other items too.
I agree. I think it's a juggling act, right? We're going to have to juggle all these priorities, we'll say, or trends. And so, again, I would recommend like another work session so we can kind of chew these ideas some more and kind of come to a consensus on things. But all good comments and all good points made today. So,
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Paz, thank you very much.
Mayor,
Yes.
can I, one more thing?
Yes, go ahead,
Mr.
Councilman.
Paz, right now when you mentioned the drones and all that, back in I think it was 2015, Mr. Aaron White was still here as our marketing analyst. We had 6 1-minute videos of Nogales, and it did everything from safety, economic development, recreation, economic opportunities. And on the city's website, you went to connect with Nogales. I don't know if, it was professionally done by New York, some people up in New York City at no cost to the city, because they were going to market some other stuff they were going to add onto their website. I don't know if you could maybe pull one up so Mr. Paz can look at it, John? Yeah. So you could look at that, and it was a very nice presentation of the city, even Nogales, Sonora, Patagonia Lake, Peña Blanca, warehouses on Mariposa Road and all that. If you could just maybe look at that, if they're still available, maybe just take a glimpse at that, and you could see how that was done back, I think it was in 2015,
Right.
if I'm not mistaken, somewhere around in there. So, thank you, Mr. Paz.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, motion to adjourn.
So move.